All right, welcome back. Season 2 2025. Putting a date on this because the Ray has changed. It has changed the suspension. Basically, I guess some of the engine braking has changed, and perhaps the tire model as well has changed for the Ray. Anyway, if you are a follower of my channel and have been using my setups, they are all out the window. If you've been using your own setups, they are all out the window. With the new suspension and ride height, it just destroys the setups, and unfortunately, iRacing does not factor in the camber, the toe that you had set up. It is all adjusted to the new ride height, which just wrecks everything. But as I am finding, if you have a record of your setup, um, you can use the similar numbers. You just have to change the ride height. I am using basically the same setup as I had for Cadwell Park before. However, just the ride height has changed up here a bit. So, and the ARB, the car feels different. The car feels better. It feels more planted. If you are someone who's driven the Ray and thought it's too twitchy, the back end is kind of sketchy, and gave up on it, it is quite a bit easier to drive. I find the car feels more planted. This is going to sound a little awkward. There's more play in the back end. Um, Before, it was a knife's edge. The car would just let go and you would loop. Now you can slide the back end more before you reach that point of the car is going to spin out on you. So some changes there. Also, I will leave in the description below. I'm trying to organize um, a weekly race with good participation. Hopefully 2 splits, maybe 3 splits if we're lucky. I will leave that information in the description below. Participation, especially with this mostly English, British tracks, a lot of pay tracks. Participation has been low, and trying just to get in a weekly race or two where participation is high, so everyone can really have a good time out there and not struggle to find an official race sometimes, which does happen. So we'll go into the setup here. Ride height. So yeah, it used to be like minus 15. Now it is plus 24. So that is a huge difference. And that's why the setups all get really scrambled. So 24 plus 24 on the front. This is pretty low in the new setup. This is really high compared to the old one, but this is pretty low compared to the old one. Yeah, so be playing around with this a little bit through the season, but this seems to be working. Keeps the car down fairly low. ARB 0. ARB normally is not something, the front ARB, you don't want to stiffen that up and promote more understeer, and I think that is even more so now with the new suspension. The car does seem to have a little bit more natural understeer, perhaps with this ride height change, and so introducing more understeer is problematic, so watch out for that. Damper compression. This is a change from the old Cadwell setup. 18 clicks, so it's 2 clicks lower than stock. Basically, that is to get the front end loaded up a little bit more. Braking here is a big issue, and the brake bias is set fairly back, which does make it a little trickier to load up the front end. However, it is so easy to lock up here, that's why the brake bias has changed. So softening up the front end here allows the weight transfer to be improved and give you a little bit more bite in the front end because, as I mentioned, I do find the car has a little bit more understeer than what it used to. Damper compression 0. Brake bias, as I talked about, it is 58.5%. That's an individual number. However, a lot of uphill and downhill braking here, very easy to lock up, and if you are locking up, adjust that brake bias a little higher, and that should help things out. Spring rates, low as they go. Front and back, Camber 1.3 on the left, 1.3 on the right. There are some off camber corners here, so just the camber is dialed back a little bit just to get a little bit more tire on the track. And you can see that big yellow number, 1.5 toe in on both sides. Yeah, you really need to get the car turned in here. You really need a pointy end, especially with this new suspension. I find I think that higher toe in is going to be a newer thing for the weeks to come. This is not going to be easy to achieve. The iRacing Garage does not like this at all. I will post the file in the Formula Ford Ray forum, in the iRacing forum. So if you just want to download that file, it will be there as soon as I can get it there. Spring rates in the rear as low as they go. Camber 1.2 on the left, 1.1 on the right. If you know my channel, I do mess around with asymmetrical cambers. No, not really a big difference on this track. That's just to keep the right side, just to keep the tire temps and wear a little bit more in line, but certainly not needed. 1.2, go with that if you're going to keep them symmetrical. Toe in 0.3. Now this was an interesting one. I did have the toe in turned up a bit more, and it really did slow me down. I had it at 0.5. Then I had it at 0.4, and then I got it down to 0.3, and it really made quite a difference, surprising amount of difference in terms of race pace. Really, it was basically like a tenth per point. So that may have something to do with the suspension. I'm not sure quite how that's working, but I really did find quite a difference there. So in the back, we've got the ride height 32 millimeters, like not minus 15, it's plus 32. The ride height in the rear is quite different than the ride height in the front. So this is another big change where you normally would be just a couple of millimeters difference between front and back. Now it is quite a gap. Again, to promote a little bit more rotation and getting that back end turning better, this is quite a bit up from the front. So the reason for that is, as I said, just to get that rear rotating a little bit better. As I said, I do find the car has more understeer now. Another change from the old setup is it's 20 mils ARB in the rear. It was 15 before. But again, to get that rotation, I have upped it to 20, and I find that is definitely where you want to be. I actually would be happier if there was a little bit more rotation to be had. So yeah, 20 is really where you want to have it. 6 and 18, that's pretty standard. Fuel levels, 13 liters should get you around no problem. It certainly would the last time round, but with the changes to the car, I'm not 100% sure if 12 liters will get you to the end or not, so look out for that. Check your fuel levels and how many laps are needed for a race. Gear stack standard, yes. Short is quick around here. Short feels nice around here, but you will get eaten up in the draft with a short stack on the especially the first straight. After what is it, turn 3 or 4, that big straight uphill, short stack just comes up way too short. So standard is what you need. All right, we will get into the guide here. Yeah, car's feeling better and actually faster than last season. So I did knock a tenth and change off my previous personal best. However, driving here with the new car is a little bit different, so do watch out for that. It's going to take a little bit of practice to get the feel of the car, because not major changes, but enough to change it a little bit. So we'll get into this in slow-mo and then run it out at full speed. Coming into turn 1, fourth gear course, looking for the bridge. I like to use the little bridge support here. Turning in at that. Once the tires are warm, you can do this full throttle. It is a late apex. Just watch, especially on cold tires, if you're looking here at my wheel input, you have to be a little gentle on the wheel input here. If you crank it too hard, it is easy to spin out, especially on cold tires. And just a note, I don't know if it's the testing session, but it is very, very icy on the first lap, especially. The second lap is better, but it's still pretty slick. So I'm not sure if that's a testing thing. I'm not sure if that's a Cadwell Park thing. I'm not sure if it's a new thing for the changes to the race. So just be aware of that. Don't get too frustrated on the first lap or two. Once tires get warm, it does get quicker. So basically, once you get the wheel straight up this hill, you're looking for this light marker or light stand. Getting off the throttle, shifting down into third, little bit of throttle just to keep that back end happy, and turning in here early, and very important for this corner to get turned in and get on these curbs. If you run wide here, you are going on the grass, or you're going to have to really slow down to keep it on track, one or the other, and neither of those are good options. So get on that curb, picking up the throttle again for a short time, third gear, holding it still in third, coming up the hill. And when you are at the crest of the hill, this is another new thing, is just dabbing the brakes, because the car has more understeer. Previously I did not dab the brakes, just simply lifting would get the car rotated, but now I find you have to dab dab the brakes just to get it to rotate, to turn in, because again, you have to get it into the camber this corner. If you run wide here, you are going into the grass, you are going to be going slow, it is going to be a bad day, you may even spin out. So keep it in tight there, third gear, then rolling up the gears into fourth. On exit you can catch this curb, but if you catch this grasscrete, you get an X. It is a brutal X. This is so easy to catch. In a race doesn't matter, but watch out for your quali lap. That will bust you. So big passing opportunity, practice defensive line here. This is probably the biggest passing spot. Looking for the one board. Now braking just before the one board. Yes, you can brake later. However, you are compromised, I find, on picking up the throttle. You can't pick up the throttle as early if you brake later, and that is going to overall cost you more time. So pretty hard on the brakes, shifting down into third, down into second, looking for basically the turn-in board here is a turn-in point, getting off the brakes, turning in, getting onto the curb here, not over the curb. These curbs have that nasty lip to them. You do not want to go over that lip. And then picking up the throttle on exit, just gingerly, feeling out how far you can push the car. Again, if you get onto the grasscrete, it is an X, and over this curb is actually a bad thing. And as you exit here, you can graze the grasscrete. This one allows you to do it. A little bit of voodoo on this track. Some you can, some you can't. So keeping it way over to the left, and then shifting up into third, and this is a tighter turn than you think it is. A turn of the wheel, that is. You got to really crank the wheel to get the car turned in here. You want to get your wheel onto the edge of the grasscrete here, again, just to open up this corner and carry more speed through it. If you don't get onto that grasscrete, you're probably going to have to lift in order to keep the car on track. So really important to get into that corner. And then just working your way up over to the edge as far as you dare. If you touch that grass, you are going to be in trouble. And then shifting up into fourth for a short time. So in the old car, in the old Ray, I would be braking at the change in pavement here, but again, a little bit more understeer, the suspension change, I find that's just braking too late. So about a car, well, I don't know, what would you call that, 2 car lengths before the change in pavement, lifting, shifting down into third gear, and again getting onto the curb but not over it. And then once you are over it, just a little dab of brakes, and then sorry about that. And then cold tires, actually you just want to barely graze the curb here. I find on cold tires these curbs are quite a bit more slippery. But once the tires are warm, you want to get into the curb here. You want to get over the edge of the curb, get onto that green stuff. It will grab your tire, but it will definitely allow you to carry more speed, pick up the throttle earlier. Just cut that corner, no X for that, and then just working your way over to the right. Again, don't get onto that grass, it is an X. And then this one is tricky. You're looking for the change in pavement here and the dip in the track down there, and basically braking between the two. Again, yes, you can brake a little bit later, but you are compromised on exit. So just if you're battling for this corner, you can brake later, but you are going to go slow. Shifting down into second, pretty darn hard on the brakes, and this is if you're locking up here, increase that brake bias, because this is going to be the one where you're locking up on, so watch out for that. And then as you roll in, releasing the brakes, getting onto this curb but not over it. That one I don't like to get over, and picking up the throttle nice and early, unwinding the wheel. You can use all of the curb on exit here, but again, you touch that grasscrete. Even up here, I actually don't even know how I didn't get an X. You touch that grasscrete, you get an X. It's a savage X. That's about as close as you can cut it. And then working your way up into fourth, just straight lining it. You don't have to follow the track here, just straight line it as much as possible. Don't scrub any speed. And then basically, if you've been straight lining it, what you're doing is you're heading for the service road here. I find it is better to come at this at an angle. It gets you over to where you want to be, better than if you were parallel to the track here. Eh, the, it seems to work better. Give it a try. I guarantee you'll like it. Not an actual guarantee. So braking at the change in pavement here just before it, watch out. Shadows can cast a shadow over this part, and it can be a little bit hard to see, so just be aware of that. Don't get caught out. Hard on the brakes, down into second gear, and coming at this at an angle really gets you lined up, because you want your car right on the very edge here without touching the grass. If you touch the grass, you're probably going to die. So don't touch the grass, but get it as far as you can over. And then at the service road here, turning in, releasing the brakes, getting onto the curb but not over the curb. This one's quite disruptive. If you go over the curb here, it really grabs your tire. And then just using a little bit of throttle just to keep that back end planted. Once you're over, again, just a little bit more throttle and going over this sausage curb. The ride height allows that, and picking up the throttle nice and early. You are going to catch some air here. Just make sure your wheel is straight in the air, because when you land, you do not want that wheel to be turned. That is going to give you a whole lot of trouble if it is. And then just working your way up the gears, there is a patch of pavement here. For some reason, there is an extended patch of pavement, and use it. Really make use of all this to open it up. This is like Silverstone or not Okayama, Suzuka. You have to get this right on entry. You really want to minimize the wheel input through these corners. If you crank the wheel through these corners, you are going to spin out. You are going to run into lots of trouble. You have to thread the needle, and that means coming in at the appropriate speed and all of that good stuff. So third gear, just lifting as you turn in towards these poles here, just lifting a bit, getting your right hand tire to smash those poles, keep your left hand tire inside the white line, and you are fine. And then as you pass the curbs, shifting down into second, and then getting onto this green stuff, again, you have to keep your right hand tire over the white line, otherwise it's an X. But if you're looking at the wheel input, it's this one's a little bit of input there, but trying to minimize it as much as possible. And then once more smashing those posts with your right hand tire, just managing the throttle through here. You do not want to be stomping on it, that is going to spin you out. And then looking for this first cone, the second cone, and then the furthest cone, the first one, or however you want to number it. Basically lifting here and then braking in between the two. Catch a little bit of this grasscrete, they do allow you to do that. Pretty hard on the brakes, down into first gear. You don't want to be stomping on the brakes here because you can lock up, and it also makes it harder to control the car when you're really hard on the brakes. So not quite so hard on the brakes, because you do want to steer the car and get your wheel onto the pavement here to open this up. Again, this can be a passing opportunity, so it's not a good passing opportunity, but people will go for it. So do practice defensive lines, but ideally you want to get yourself way over to the left here, and then just to open it up, releasing the brakes again so the car will turn and rotate, and then getting over this. It's not a sausage curb per se, but it is a big curb, but with the ride height and such, you're okay to go over it. And then picking up the throttle nice and early, using the curbs on exit, but again, do not touch the grasscrete. This is a really terrible X. If you just go over here, it is an X. So make sure you're back on track, but then guess what? You can touch the grasscrete. In order to go fast, again, this might be a passing opportunity, watch out, but to go faster here, you have to get onto the pavement left of the white line, and you can even graze some of this grasscrete here, although you don't want to do it too aggressively because it can spin out the car. But you do want to open this corner up as much as possible. So shifting up into second gear here just for a short time, and basically just lifting. Just you're in second gear for like a second, and then lift, and then turn the car in, and then just slowly managing the throttle here, getting onto the curb, and then picking it up nice and early. Don't just stomp on it. You can spin out through this corner. It is pretty easy. This is kind of off camber. And then just letting the car run out wide to the left. And again, another savage X here. If you touch that grasscrete, you do get an X. And then working your way up the gears, it's really important. Watch this corner if you're watching it at full speed. Releasing, getting onto this curb, very important to get onto this curb to open this up and pick up the throttle nice and early. I can't understate this enough. If you mess up this corner, you will lose so much time. 3/4 tenths, easily 3/4 tenths if you mess this corner up. And if you mess this corner up, if it's your quali lap, you have now messed up your next lap. So very important to get this corner right. It is probably surprisingly the costliest corner on the track if you get it wrong. So just watch out for that. And so that's a 127.2. So yeah, I dropped a tenth with this new car configuration, and was actually lapping, well, probably on average, a tenth or so faster. I got several laps into the 27.3s, which was quite hard before. So yeah, it is quicker, but it does take a little bit of practice. It is just a bit different than what it felt like before, but a couple tanks of gas, you will be very comfortable with it, and hopefully going faster. So I'll run this out at full speed. We'll see you out there.